All right, now let's see how we can implement the popular badge. This is very easy. All we have to do is insert an image in the header, and then using absolute positioning, we can position it to the top right corner of the card. As simple as that. Now, below this video, you can find this image as an SVG file. I didn't include it in the zip file because this file has the same problem as the logo file that I told you about earlier. The designer that I worked with, he didn't know much about vector graphics, so I asked him to export this a few times, and unfortunately, I couldn't put this in a sprite. Things didn't work the way I expected. I'm so sorry about the hassle, so please download this image, then add it to the images folder. Good. Now, if we go back to our markup, so here's the header of the card. We're going to add an image and set the source to images/popular SVG. Now, before going any further, let's preview our changes. So here's what we get. That looks awful. Now we can come back here and give this a class to style it, but let me show you a better way. I don't want to remember to add this element every time I want to make a plan popular. Wouldn't that be nicer if instead of adding this element, all we had to do was to apply a second class here like plan -- popular, because this is a variation of the plan component. This is just an extra skin. So let's use this class to dynamically insert that image. How are we going to do that? Using pseudo element selectors. So using the before selector, we want to insert an image before the content of the header element. So let's go to our style sheet. Before our media query, we're going to write another rule. So if you have a plan that is popular, we want to insert something before the content of the card header. So here we type card header, double colons before. We talked about this in the first part of the series. So here we're going to set the content to, using the URL function, we're going to load the image. So currently we are in the CSS folder. We have to go one level up, then to images and load popular SVG. Before going any further, let's make sure we're getting the same result as before. So save. Great. Now we can easily style this. So I'm going to set the width to 40 pixels. Now, because this is an inline element, we have to set display to inline block so the width works. Let's take a look. Great. Now using absolute positioning, we want to move it over here. So we're going to set position to absolute. And that means we should make the parent or the container a relatively positioned element. What is the parent? Card header. So let's define another rule. If we have a plan that is popular, the card header should be a relatively positioned element. So we set position to relative. Great. Now that we are using absolute positioning here, we're going to set top to 0 and right to 5%. So whatever the width of the card, we're going to take 5% of that and use it as the right offset. Now take a look. So here's what we get. I'm going to push this badge a little bit further up. So let's set the top to -6 pixels. That looks better. So here's the white version. We also have the mobile version. Everything looks great. So we're done with the plan component. Next, we're going to implement a media component.